Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon. This afternoon, we got plenty of things to discuss here on a Tuesday show, but hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. We'll get some Razorback football, Razorback basketball, look around the SEC, little things to watch for with the new sponsor of Bryant Technologies, and of course, get to all your chats, at least the good ones and the ones that you pay for, or, you know, just ones that maybe set us off and piss us off. But either way, guys, it's good to see you here on a Tuesday. How we feeling today?
Pretty good, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a long monologue every day. We're good. I'm happy to be here. Let's go.
I'm glad you said that. I used Curtis's section to figure out what I'm going to say. And so Curtis going with the one sentence really put me in a blender there. But yeah, I'm doing good on this fine Tuesday.
Hey, well, sometimes, you know, when you have a press conference with certain coaches, they don't really tell you anything. They just get to the point and make it very clear. But other coaches don't necessarily do that. But either way, though, it's good. It's good. It's cold outside, folks. It's going to be a wild weekend for snowy weather, apparently. So I think we had talked about it. Didn't necessarily promote it as much, but just to let everybody know, we were planning on doing a show at Alumni Hall live this Friday with Inside Arkansas Live. But due to the weather, we're going to move that to January 24th, the Friday before the Oklahoma game. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that one, but also be safe out there. You know, we made fun of some people who overreact in the snow, and you know, I just be prepared for the snow and the snowy weather, because Arkansas is going to have a basketball game on Saturday against Florida. They got a game against Ole Miss, of course, tomorrow. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that. But guys, I wanted to kind of bring it up today because, you know, last night at just, of course, a random time, Arkansas able to add another wide receiver from the transfer portal on the football side of things. And I listened to it and I watched y'all, and I had to keep saying it this morning. It's CC, right? That's what the people were saying.
That's the rumor. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I see that in it's pronounced Ishmael, right? Or is it Ismail?
Not an H, we've determined. But we'll find out. I mean, you know how these kids are. Sometimes they'll be on campus for 3 years and then they're like, true. Actually,
it's
my name's Cici or something. You're like, oh, okay, all right. So we'll just wait and see. But I think it's Ismail Cici.
Okay. That sounds great. And I know you guys talked about it, but they have some great names on the team this year. But I was sitting there and I was looking at it. I watched some highlights of him and everything. I was like, okay, you know, whatever. And I was kind of going through what sent me down a rabbit hole last night of just watching highlights of the players that Arkansas has out of the transfer portal, at least the film that you do have of them. Some of them you just don't, or at least some high school highlights, maybe something like that. But man, it's just incredible to see. They're really going all in on this type of situation, this risky maneuver, as I like to put it, of going a little money ball and trying to put this thing all together, and considering all the players that they've lost and who they've added. I don't know. I'm a very optimistic person, and I tried to do it on my Locked On podcast last night of just trying to be like, yeah, this is what's good and everything. But it just seems like it's such a risky way of doing it. I just don't know how I feel about this approach and if it's going to work. Like, maybe I'm the guy that's trying to be the smartest guy in the room and be like, this isn't going to work at all. But sheesh, man, I just keep thinking about how they're approaching it and how the type of players that they're getting in. Nothing against them, but I just don't see how this works, or how this approach to it actually works out and makes this team better next season.
Well, there's going to have to be a lot of what ifs, or, you know, hopes that turn into facts and production, I think is what it is, man. I mean, they've gone out and got a handful of guys who should be like immediate impact type of players. Obviously they need a ton of them. But beyond that, man, it's just like, you're going to need guys who have produced at lower levels. You need it to translate to the SEC. You're going to need guys who are really talented, but haven't had the opportunity to really play and showcase it for whatever reason to hit. It's just like, you're going to have the things break your way. And unfortunately, that's just a situation that Arkansas is in. I think they lost too much to really go out and be able to replace it all. So like, you're going to have some surprises almost, you know, or some of your bets that you're taking here are going to have to pay off. Like the title of the show, will Sam Pittman's big risk pay off? Is it going to pay off with a guy like Big McCroy? Like, is he going to be ready to roll right away? Is Jaden Platt going to be able to hold down the fort as tight end one? right away? Are these receivers who have just not done it in the SEC period or at all going to be able to step in and do this? I mean, it's just you're going to have some positive answers to those questions for this to work out, or they're going to have to surprise us between now and the summer, with that spring period. Maybe they will. They've had some good luck doing that in the past, but I don't know if that's what I would want to hang my hat on, given what you lost and what you need to bring in going into this thing.
Yeah, the good news is that the games are not played on paper, and when the games eventually do show up in the fall, it won't be determined by what you have on paper. But the bad news is Arkansas's paper stinks. Like, just on paper, it's not going to be one of the more talented rosters in the SEC. It's shaping up to be one of the least talented for sure. And we'll see how that shakes out. Again, there's a spring portal. We'll see how that works out. But I think there's a lot of, I guess, mental gymnastics being done these days where people are kind of trying to talk themselves into it and trying to give this team and this program the best. They want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, you're losing a lot. You're letting Luke Has walk. You're letting Patrick Kudus walk. Well, maybe Bobby Petrino just wants his guys. And I guess you can make a case for that. And we'll see. Again, maybe this is just what they wanted to do. But I think even when you just look at the guys that they brought to campus and the guys that they had on visits, even their like option A out of that hasn't really worked out, because some of the best players that they brought in, they actually didn't end up landing. And so, I think we talked about it last night on the show or on the stream that it seems like it's happened a few times now where they're kind of in the mix for a guy that we all have determined we like, the guy that the fan base is kind of excited about. And then someone at his position commits and we start doing the math and we're like, oh, okay, wait a minute, I guess that guy's not coming. And then of course they end up committing somewhere else. DT Sheffield, Kendrick Law, Maddox, the safety. Like, it's happened on a few different occasions at a bunch of different positions, including the running back position. And so, look, it's not all about talent. It's not all about, having the best portal class. It's not all about winning the offseason. But I think that we do need to be real about the situation, and that it has been a lackluster portal cycle so far for the Arkansas Razorbacks. And I think you can look at the 24/7 rankings and be like, oh, well, it's really not that bad. But even 24/7 Sports, the outlet themselves, would tell you that it is that bad. And so I think it's time for people to kind of come to terms with what really has happened throughout this portal cycle. It hasn't gone the way that this coaching staff wanted it to go and the way that they had planned.
So I'm going to need you guys to hold me accountable right now on this day, on January 7th, 2025, the year of our Lord. When SEC Football Media Days comes around, the lowest I've ever picked Arkansas to finish as an astute member of the media at SEC Media Days was I picked them 5th in the SEC West one time. Now, I know divisions are gone. But last year, I actually picked them to finish 11th in the SEC. I am not going to pick them higher than that. In fact, I am not going to go higher than 12th for this team, regardless of what happens. And I need y'all to make sure that I do that and not start drinking Kool-Aid and start saying, man, I really liked what this guy did in spring ball, so therefore it's going to happen. And I'm saying that because this is going to be the first offseason, the first summer, the first year that I can remember where I was kind of like this even last year, but it's going to be even more so this year, where I just don't see anything on paper about this team, about this roster, about this staff, about this schedule, about anything where I'm like, well, here's how it could be better, or here's how it's going to be better. Like last year, I mean, you're coming off 4-8. So it didn't take a whole lot to say, hey, this is how this team's going to be better. They were better. They went 7-6. It wasn't just incredible, but it was better. But this year, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And until I see it on the field first and foremost, and who knows, maybe when they play Notre Dame and they get a big win or something like that, I'm not going to believe it's going to happen, because I'm tired of trying to buy into something that as you say, mental gymnastics, Andrew, where I'm going through it all. I'm like, no, this is how it's going to be okay. This is why it's going to be good. I just can't find that right now. And I don't think I'm going to find it. And unless the spring portal season just blows up and they start bringing in some dudes that shocking left their schools and their spring and everything, I just don't see that's going to be the case. So I'm saying that also from a fan perspective of if I'm feeling that way, how in the world are fans going to start feeling that way about this team and about the confidence that they have that they're going to be a better team, or at least just as good of a team as what they were last year?
Yeah, I feel you, man. And honestly, you're talking about ranking them in the SEC and stuff. I mean, it's, like there's still a roster left to be built, but not that much. I mean, it's kind of shaping up to what it's going to be. And, like Mississippi State, probably not going to be very good again. Kentucky was in a similar situation to Arkansas with a bunch of dudes leaving. And like, there are 2 or 3 teams there that are in bad shape. I mean, they're down there, but what I'm really honestly going to try to do is go into all this with as much of an open mind as possible, because I don't want my evaluations to be clouded by just not being impressed with what they've done here. Like, I really want to be able to watch it, see these guys in the spring and be like, okay, this guy I think can help. This guy I'm not sure about. Well, I think about who was at that position last year. I really want to be as objective as I possibly can here in watching it. But yeah, I mean, just all we can go off right now is kind of the on paper product, and knowing what that schedule looks like, knowing what they lost, and knowing what they needed to do to really like undoubtedly improve their situation. And it's hard for me to believe that they've really done that yet. Hopefully after I, get to watch them, I can change my mind a little bit. I'm just not necessarily seeing it right now. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to go the entire summer and into this season with like nothing to look forward to or nothing to even pretend to be excited about. So I'm trying to get any negativity out of my mind and just be as clear and objective as I possibly can be going into this thing.
I'm glad I tried to poison you. I'm glad I was trying to poison you during this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. It really is rare for a fan to go into a season expecting their team to stink. And like, look, we all kind of have that like reverse jinx in us where we try and like say something loudly where we're like, oh, Coach Cal and this team, they're not going to figure it out, kind of hoping that they do, so that we could get the win-win. I know some people will do that, but it really is rare for like Arkansas. And like, I can't speak for everyone, but like Arkansas has been bad at football a lot of years in my lifetime. Most of those years, I didn't go into it being like, they're going to suck. Now, I was a kid for a lot of those as well, like where I kind of just have that in energy where I'm like, oh, they're going to be good no matter what. But like even in 2023, when they actually were bad, I didn't go into that year expecting them to be bad. 2018 and 2019 with Chad Morris are probably the exceptions here, but like most years you have some type of case for optimism. And so we will spend the next, 8 months looking for that. And I say we, the collective fan base and the collective state of Arkansas will look for that. It is going to be interesting. I will say this time last year, I felt not this bad, but I felt kind of similar where I was like, I remember at one point saying if Arkansas has an average or an above average defense, like they should make Travis Williams like the czar of sports in the state of Arkansas. Cause I was like, on paper, this defense is going to suck. And they ended up not sucking that bad. So like, I don't know if that's supposed to inspire a ton of confidence, but I will say like by the time August rolled around last year, I had found kind of a way to talk myself in and kind of expected them to end up being pretty competent. I have no idea if that's going to happen this time, but I agree with what you're saying, Curtis. We're like, at this point in time, you're looking on paper for that reason, and it's really just not there yet. But there is a lot that's going to happen between now and August, and we'll get to see this team in action in the spring. We'll get to hear from several coaches and players, and we'll kind of see what we have there. But as of right now, I mean, I was just looking at On3 because we've been tracking the portal rankings a lot, and On3 does the ingoing and outgoing. They currently have Arkansas at number 42. In the country, and that's among 56 Power 4 programs. The only SEC teams below Arkansas are Tennessee and Texas, who are obviously in the playoff teams that are gonna end up shaping up their roster a good bit. So you could very well make a case that the portal cycle has gone worse for Arkansas than any other SEC team.
You know what it's been stuck with me for 24 hours. And we talked about it a little bit last night, Andrew, and I sent it to you guys in our group, but that 24/7 sports story about the pain meter in the transfer portal, I can't get past it because yes, it's absolutely true. Like if you look at rankings at certain places, not On3, and we know the reason why is because they take into account what you've lost versus what you've gained, but just what they've brought in, you look at it and it's like top 15 or whatever in the country. And there's reasons why. And part of it is because they've had to bring in so many, like the numbers add up to make it that. It's almost like quantity over quality, I guess, that has pushed them up there. But you can see that. And then the guy in that story pointing out like, but you got to take into account what Arkansas has lost here. If you take the top 10 guys who have transferred out of Arkansas and put it into one portal class, it'd be a top 5 class. That's the type of stuff that they've lost. And then we're not even talking about the guys who have we're not talking about Andrew Armstrong, who's graduating, can't come back, and guys like that. So, boy, they really had their work cut out for them. And even despite and manipulate the numbers however you want, even if they have the number 13 portal class according to 24/7 or whoever the hell else, it was just highly unlikely that they were going to be able to do everything they needed to do to replace all these guys going into it. So here we are, man. But I'm never going to get that story burned out of my mind after seeing that yesterday about it's like Lane Kiffin. He went and got half of Arkansas's guys. Had he got 10 of them, they'd be in the same spot that they are right now in the national rankings, right there in the top 5. It's insane.
Quickly, I love you, Kingsley. I really do. But I have to address this because he's basically making the case like, oh, we're seeing Arkansas and we're just assuming other teams are doing well. Maybe other teams are sucking too. And I know a lot of Hog fans like to do this where they're like, this happens everywhere, doesn't it? We can look at these rankings that we're looking at. It shows what the other teams are bringing in. It shows that Auburn has a damn good portal class. They've had a very productive offseason. LSU, they've had a very productive offseason. A&M, they've always got a ton of talent. Even Vanderbilt has had a significantly better portal class than Arkansas. Like, it's not like we're just playing a game where we're guessing. Like, we can just look at what other teams are doing, and we can look at it on paper, and we get to see where Arkansas stacks up. Now, again, it's not all going to be determined on paper, but we don't have to lie about the situation and just pretend like, oh, hey, maybe everyone else is actually just as bad as Arkansas. Like, no, we can look at it on paper and see.
Well, and yeah, to that point, I try to put myself in the shoes of, say, an Ole Miss fan. If you're an Ole Miss fan and you're wanting the season to be better next year and you're changing the roster and all of that, are you excited about the fact that you're bringing in a guy who's was a preseason All SEC tight end and a starter at Arkansas? Yeah. You're probably excited about bringing in the starting offensive lineman that he burned a red shirt essentially at Arkansas, so you get extra years for him and was the best offensive lineman. Yeah, you're excited about that. Are you excited about Jalen Braxton? You're excited about that. And Arkansas fans would be the same way if the roles were reversed. Do you think Razorback fans would be excited if they brought in the starting tight end that was preseason All SEC at Ole Miss? Yeah, they would be excited about it. It's a matter of putting that into the perspective of your peers in the SEC. It's not that the other teams in the SEC are doing just all of them light years better than you, but it's a matter of the teams that you're going to be going up against, the teams and looking at the portal guys that they've brought in. I just don't think it's a healthy way, especially for Razorback fans, given the way that they've done things. I don't think it's a healthy way of putting your hope and your faith in simple improvement or simple, hey, well, this guy was just in a different system and now he's going to flourish in this one. That's just not where the healthy hope comes from. Last year, people had hope because you had a new quarterback for the first time in 3 years, and you had a Bobby Petrino offense, and you had guys like a Luke Has coming back, a Landon Jackson coming back. You had that hope that even if you thought the team wasn't going to be great, you could at least hope that, hey, this is how they could be. And this year, you don't have a Landon Jackson to put your hope in. You don't have a player coming out of the portal that was a perennial starter at an SEC school, and now he's your guy. You don't have a new quarterback or a new offensive coordinator or anything like that. You just don't have any of those things to really hope and put your rest in. So now your hope and faith is just coming in improvement and development and these new guys being diamonds in the rough. I just don't think that that's the easiest and healthiest way for people to put their faith in why this is going to be okay and why it's going to be better next year.
It's a tough sell.
It is. It is. Yeah. And I'm not trying to sell it. And that's the deal.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell it.
I'll let somebody else do that.
Yeah, seriously. There'll be plenty of that going around. But yeah, and I'm also, if you're somebody who's excited, I'm not trying to tell you shouldn't be at all. Be excited, be hopeful, be all of that. I'm just trying to take it from the perspective of the general fan, where if you run into a fan, they're like, I'm not excited about this year. And you're like, why? How could you not be excited about this year? This is why. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The evidence is there. So I just don't think that you can just simply, it'll be fine. Well, why? It just will be. Okay. That's weird. Don't take that approach. Don't take that approach. Yeah, we'll get to some of your chats, folks. Also, want to do a little buy or sell action today on Bet Saracen, because I'm sure I got some really good ones, which usually means that I don't. But we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But let's see. We got Ryan comes in. He says, by the numbers, he says Arkansas portal player average rating is 74. It's ranked worse than Texas Tech, Florida State, Baylor, Virginia Tech, Duke, and Rutgers. Make sure to put Rutgers in all caps. So, yeah.
Hey, Rutgers is cooking right now. No, don't sleep on Rutgers. They're on the way up.
Them and Texas Tech both when it comes to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, Ryan. I get it, but I'm also one of those when it comes to recruiting rankings or portal rankings or whatever. If there's a difference between being a top 5 class and being a top 30 class, like if you're number 5 or compared to number 28, huge difference. But if you're talking about your transfer portal class is number 40 and another team's transfer portal class is 36, and therefore like, oh, they're just better. It's like it's very marginal. So I'm not just trying to say that everything's fine, but considering those ratings and where the other teams are at, I don't think there's a huge difference between a 74 and a 76 or 77, if that makes sense. So
yeah, we can agree that it's not the company you want to keep.
No,
right there.
No, in fact, that's I think probably been the most depressing thing about it is, again, you're talking about the almost like trades where you're working in and out of roster spots. If you're getting other guys from other SEC schools, it's kind of fun in that way. I mean, you guys remember how fun it was to see, oh man, Drew Sanders, Landon Jackson, Jaden Hazelwood, how people were pumped about that. They were pumped about those guys. And now it's just like, well, I don't know about this guy. He's never played on a television broadcast that wasn't on ESPN Plus. So, maybe, but it's just hard to really believe in it right now. Also, KH, I'll highlight this, but it says Taylor turning into Lamar is the only hope.
I really do think, like, I obviously, like, that's a little bit of hyperbole. Like, he's not going to turn into the best quarterback on the planet. But, like, if you were really trying to craft the case for, like, why Arkansas would be substantially improved, him being very, very good at football would kind of have to be the case, which is going to be a tough one because I know a lot of these fans that we're talking with now don't like Taylor Green and wish that Arkansas had replaced him this offseason. So it's like, it's kind of a fascinating conundrum that Arkansas fans have found themselves in.
Well, my question for y'all about Taylor Green, and this, you don't have to look at any specific numbers, but just off the top of your head, where would you have ranked Taylor Green SEC quarterback wise this past year in the SEC? Just, it doesn't have to be specific, but just ballpark of where you'd rank him.
I
mean,
probably like right in the middle of the pack.
I was gonna say like 10th or something.
Yeah, okay. Like the 9-10 range.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7 to 10 range, something like that, just depending on where you had it. Because he did have, what was it, the second or third most yards passing in the SEC. So I could see it. Okay, so knowing that, next year, knowing what's coming back at quarterback and all that, going into the year, where would you put him? Like kind of the same place, essentially? I
could see maybe a little bit higher. Really, it's tough with him particularly. Like, I don't have too much of like a concern over Taylor. I think it's going to be more about his surrounding parts. I don't know who he's going to throw the ball to necessarily. I think his O-line's a little bit better. I could see that. So maybe that'll help him. I could see him cracking the top like 6, 7.
Yeah. I don't know. Not having an Andrew Armstrong is worrisome to me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he bailed out, but just imagine if Andrew Armstrong was not on this team last year. I'm not trying to compare him to say, oh, he's the Traylon Burks impact, but I mean, he's definitely going to be huge for that. So
he was a security blanket, man.
Yeah.
Like when in doubt or when under duress, just throw it in his direction. And they've got to figure out who that guy is going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know who it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that could be the Crutchfield role. I don't know. Because Omega Blake strikes me as the home run threat kind of guy. I mean, at least that's what he's been. To whereas Armstrong, it's just like, I don't know, when in doubt, just run a slant and throw it to him. Like, who is that guy going to be? We'll see.
Well, speaking of that, can we go ahead and can we right now retire some names in the spring that we like Monty Harrison? Can we just go ahead and retire that and just not say he doesn't need to be asked. He does not need to be a player that's asked about in press conferences anymore. That's the thing I also want to do this spring is like, let's just, because I know somebody's going to say, if a question gets asked, hey, what wide receiver? Like Monty Harrison, this might be his year with another. No. We're done with that. Like that does not need to be the case.
Dog, we got some stinker chats in the.
I was getting accused
got
of doing the
some
mental
stinkers
gymnastics things early, and people were doing they just don't have a receiver that's anywhere as good as Andrew Armstrong, so that makes them all better as a whole. You don't have a go-to guy, so
they're replacing Andrew Armstrong with guys who are less accomplished than Isaac Tesla. So you had Tesla, you had Broden, you had Satania. Even if they had just brought those guys back, we wouldn't feel super great. But they're bringing in guys who played less at the SEC level than that. So it's like I don't know where you got the idea that a guy who wasn't on a 2-deep at an SEC roster is going to massively be like an adequate Andrew Armstrong replacement. And then maybe if you think Omega Blake really is going to be like a stud or whatever, but we're bringing in guys that are very, very not that accomplished. So it's like, I don't know where that, just because they don't have one guy as good as Andrew Armstrong, I don't know how that equates to they're going to have 4 guys that can separate against SEC corners. I don't know if they have one.
And that's what I'm wondering. And we'll just have to wait and see, because I think people are seeing there's not as much separation from your number one to all the other guys, that they'll just be able to spread it out all over the place and it'll just be way more efficient. Hopefully that's the case. Jury's out.
Yeah. Well, I assume that one of y'all highlighted this from SET where he says, I do believe Talon will continue to get better. I disagree with Curtis about him not having any room left to grow.
First of all, I never said that. So you're disagreeing with something that wasn't said. I think for the people who are thinking that he's going to go from being an average to below average quarterback. I mean, hell, everybody wanted him bench for Malachi Singleton all year, to being that Lamar Jackson or taking that huge leap in his 5th year of college football. I don't think there's that much room for growth. I think I've actually been on the record saying I think he's going to be better than he was last year. But then you also have to take into account that he's got to get acclimated with an entire new room of weapons and build that chemistry. He's kind of back at square one. The only difference is he's more familiar with the playbook and everything, but none of his teammates are. So there's going to be some growing pains there and everything. I think he's going to be better, but I'm not seeing that leap that people are hoping for the guy who everybody wanted to bench halfway through the season to being one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. Just trying to be realistic here.
I think when you made those comments back in the day, it was more about you don't become a guy who's a 58 to 60% passer 4 straight years. You don't just magically become a 70% guy. Right. And for a guy who is more of a home run or bust type of guy, he can make improvements, he can tighten up. We saw his accuracy get a little bit better, his understanding of the offense get a little bit better this year, and that'll continue to improve. But you don't just become a different guy. And so I think there's always room for growth. But I agree with your sentiment that I don't know if you're just going to get a completely different human being playing quarterback next year.
Well, and also, again, it goes back to my point. If you're just putting your faith and hope in development and that's it, he's just going to be better. Okay, but why? Is it strictly, Petrino's coaching him? I was like, okay, but you're talking, how many times have you seen, like you said, a quarterback take that massive leap where he goes from being a 50, a little above 50% completion percentage to 68, or something like that, or goes from throwing 13 touchdowns, 9 picks to 28 touchdowns and 4 picks. That just doesn't happen. And so I just don't think you can just blindly throw it out. Well, I have faith and belief that the development's going to be there. Okay, well, he lost literally any player worth a frick in offense on his side. Any offensive line, I know the offensive line could be better, but he lost all those guys. He lost his tight ends. He lost his wide receivers. He lost the majority of his running backs. I feel like that has to play a factor into it as well. You can't blindly just throw it out there because you lost a tight end. I know they didn't utilize him as much, but a great tight end, an NFL caliber wide receiver. You just, I don't know. You just can't chalk it up to that. You can't blindly say that. But again, hope is great. Hope, was it from Shawshank Redemption? Hope is a great thing, perhaps the best of things. And with hope, a good thing never dies. Okay, that's in Shawshank, and it's a great story. But this ain't Shawshank Redemption. It's not a movie. It's Razorback football. Y'all should know better. Okay, this is how it's going to go. You know how this plays out. Also, Nate says, is hope for Talon this year. Or do y'all want to see Madden out there? Dude,
I really don't think there's any controversy with the quarterback situation here.
Nope. He's the guy. 100%.
I think playing a freshman who hasn't played football in 2 years should definitely not be like your option A or B even. I think KJ, I could see the case for KJ Jackson before I could see the case for Madden, who literally did not play football this past fall.
It'd be awesome if he showed up in the spring and, was just throwing darts all over the place and making it undeniable. We won't even be able to flirt with that conversation unless we see it.
No.
Like it's just, I think it's probably silly to talk about that right now.
Yeah. Like it's just, I don't know. A true freshman quarterback will never be good in the SEC, period. End of story. Like that's never something that's going to happen. And if it is, it's because of because even like guys like Johnny Manziel gets problems. Like, hey, he was a redshirt freshman. And I don't care what anybody says. A year is a big difference. And so just relying on, a true freshman quarterback going up against Georgia. Okay, sure. Going up against Texas, God help you. If you think that the true freshman quarterback's just going to walk in and be all right with that. Arch Manning was like the greatest prospect since sliced bread. And now he hasn't played snaps. He could have been your best option as a true freshman quarterback playing, and he didn't. So there's that. I tell you what, let's go ahead and have some fun with this since we're sticking with the portal aspect of it and get to a little buy or sell action presented by Bet Saracen. It's the Bet Saracen app, the #1 sports betting app in the state of Arkansas. And you can also get to betting at betsaracen.com. Lots of props and everything going on for the Arkansas Ole Miss game tomorrow, as well as all sporting events. So check it out at Bet Saracen in the app. You can download it on your iPhone or Android or at betsaracen.com. All right, just a few guys here for we'll do some football and some basketball and all of that. But how about this one? Buy or sell that Arkansas has yet to sign their biggest impact player from the transfer portal.
Sell.
I would love to buy it, but I would be inclined to sell as well.
Yeah, because a lot of these times I just get them from discussions I have or the weird DMs I get it late at night. But this was something to where someone's bringing up, the spring and, you could sign somebody big. It's like, I don't think so.
They could, they could get somebody who's going to be impactful for them, but yeah, they're most impactful. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be buying that at all, to be honest. But hey, if you want to do that, kudos to you. If you want to believe in that, great. But because even somebody brought up, they're like, hey, you remember Jalen Tate? They signed him. I'm like, you're talking about two completely different sports. Like what? Yeah, Jalen Tate. You love Jalen Tate. You're like, yeah, I do. But that was Eric Musselman and Razorback basketball. And
Trey Wade was a late pickup too. Go ahead and throw him in there.
It's like you can't just man. I mean, you're picking, trying to get some things going. We'll hear a little bit from old Chin Coleman here in a bit, and some of the clips he had for our Arkansas update. But get to the basketball side of things. How about this? Buy or sell that Arkansas will win both games this week in Bud Walton Arena.
I think they're going to win tomorrow. I'm not ready to say about this Florida game yet. I want to see how they look against Tennessee. I think that's tonight.
It is.
I want to see how they look in that one before I go making any grand declarations there.
Well, because I was going to ask you, Curtis, when I kind of figured you'd say that, but I was like, is anything going to change your mind for like if Arkansas goes out and just beats the brakes off of Ole Miss? Is that going to change your mind and your feeling about Florida, or is it more about what Florida does against Tennessee?
I want to see Florida against Tennessee. I personally, I haven't watched a whole bunch of Florida, but I watched that whole game against Kentucky. I want to see them against the team that Arkansas just played, and how they stack up there. Because what really sold me on Florida was their backcourt. I think their guards are really good, and then they were doing to Kentucky on the offensive glass what Tennessee was doing to Arkansas for large portions of that game. So I want to see those two teams against each other and get a vibe for like how physical are they really, you know what I mean? But if I've got to do a buy or sell, I'd probably sell it. Like I think they'd probably split.
Yeah, I think Arkansas can beat Ole Miss, of course. I mean, hell, they might even be favored. I haven't looked at the spread or anything like that. Like it's going to be a game that they can obviously win. I think they can beat Florida, but I don't know if I can buy that they're going to do both back to back. Like just if I were doing the probability chart, and let's say we give them a 60% chance to beat Ole Miss and then a 50% chance to beat Florida. It's like, I don't know if that equates to going 2-0 necessarily. And so I think I would just take the safe route and just sell and go with the split.
Yeah. I think that if you first off, you have to split. We can all agree with that. Like you have to win one of these games.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have
Yeah,
to.
probably.
But I also agree that Ole Miss might be your best bet. But I'm going to be that idiot that if Arkansas goes out, I'm not predicting it, but if they go out and beat Ole Miss by like 20 points or something, I'm like, oh, man, hey, listen, they figured it out. I'm going to post that clip of Devo. This team figured it out. They struggling. We got the win. I'm going to do that. So I think that's also very contingent on that performance.
It also just depends on, like how they bounce back and everything. And I thought some of the good things that Chin Coleman said today were about their mentality and stuff, but like, I need to see John L. Davis have a pulse. Like, I mean, how many times are we going to hear a coach say, oh yeah, Cal's going to do some things to get him going, to get him some shots? Well, we're still waiting. Like, I need to see that guy do something. I need to see Boogie bounce back. I need to see a Dude Thero, not go 3 of 7 from the floor and 0 of 4 from the free throw line. I need to see Big Z be some sort of a contributor on the roster. I need to see Jonas Adu look like he's not terrified out there like he was at Tennessee. Like, I need to see a lot of things to start feeling better about where this team is at. We know how talented they are. We know how good they could be. So in theory, it's like, oh yeah, these are games they should win. But they just look so uncharacteristic against Tennessee compared to what we've seen for the past month that you just need to know if it's a one-off or if it's like a pattern developing. And that's why this game is so important, I feel like, on Wednesday.
Well, how about this? Another buy or sell. Buy or sell that Arkansas's worst margin of defeat in the SEC happened against Tennessee.
I'm going to buy that. Yeah,
I'm gonna buy it as well. Just because, I mean, outside of like Auburn, where you have to go on the road at Auburn, but you'll be playing them in February when you ideally should have more of a sense of who you are. Who else is like a real candidate to like whip Arkansas's ass? I mean, hell, Florida, I feel like counts. Like, they're a team that could. I don't think they're going to come into Bud Walton and beat Arkansas by 25, though.
I mean, Bama.
But they get Bama at home.
Is Bama going to come into Bud Walton on what is it, February 8th? Is when that game is.
The other hardest road game you have is at Kentucky.
Right. And I mean, I got to be honest with you. And I know this is going to like piss Hog fans off. If we were power ranking teams that are likely to beat Arkansas by that margin, Kentucky would have to be the one you have to watch out for, just because of their variance of how many threes they shoot. You're at Rupp. It could just be one of those games where they hit 17 threes and it's like, well, we lost by 25.
Yeah. But no, I'm buying that. And they might lose to somebody else by double digits or something before this is all said and done. The SEC is just like that, man. It's like Chin Coleman said today, we're going to have to take some licking and keep on ticking, which was a great out of context quote, by the way.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, it's they're too talented for that. If they stay healthy, even if all the guys aren't playing their best, they should not lose like that.
No.
Yeah. I would even argue, even if you think Arkansas is actually bad, like they're going to go 5-13 in SEC play, I still don't think they're going to get beat that bad again.
No, I don't think so. I really hope that they don't, because if they do, I will not have fun. That will not be a fun day. And I like
good way to put it.
Yeah.
I will be referencing this also. If it happens, I will be referencing this and being like, we thought that was it. This team sucks.
Because what was it against Tennessee? Was it 24?
24.
24. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. How about this one? Buy or sell that Big Z will lead the team in scoring in one SEC game this year.
Selling it.
Yeah, I don't know.
If
there were another bad team left on the schedule, I could see it, but I don't know.
I'm buying it, dude. I think that there's going to be some stupid game against like Missouri at home or something where they're going to insert him and he's going to hit that first three with like about 14 minutes left in the first half, and suddenly heat check is on. He makes that second one. He catches fire. Everyone's going crazy. I mean, it's almost like everyone's acting like he's a walk-on because he's out there hitting threes. I could see it. So I'm buying.
I think for this to happen, it would mean that Jonas Adu probably got banged up again.
Yeah.
Like, really, I just don't think there's going to be that many SEC games where Big Z plays 24, 25 minutes,
Yeah. Well, now you put it that way. Now it makes me feel bad because I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for that guy to get hurt so I can jump in. But you are right, though.
I want him to. It's like Arkansas, they've got to have all these guys contributing, man. They really do. And Big Z is a big part to the equation if they're going to be the type of team that they think they're going to be. And it doesn't even have to be that much. The thing that was cool about Big Z last year at Kentucky was that he was highly productive in a low amount of minutes. Like you could play him 15 minutes in a game and get really good production out of him. And man, he was just tracking to do that. It's crazy that they had to lean on him early in the season more than they probably planned to, because Jonas is out. Trevin's got the ankle. Z's playing like 30 minutes in some of these games, which he's never done, and looked real good. And then now it's like, okay, you got your supporting cast back around you. We can take a little bit of pressure off of you, keep you fresh. And then it's just, I don't know if it's confidence. They said he was under the weather. Everybody's under the weather. So I don't know, man, but they really do need to get him going a little bit. And here's the thing. I understand that he's not like the most fleet of foot guy. He's not the most physical guy or whatever, but there are way less physical, way less talented, way less skilled big men in this conference who you can put on the floor and play and be productive and make an impact. So why is the 7'2" guy at Arkansas unplayable all of a sudden? It just doesn't make sense to me. You put him on any other roster in the SEC, and I guarantee you he's having a bigger impact right now. I just don't understand why it's fallen off a cliff here. It's crazy. It's baffling.
I mean, hell, you could argue he had a bigger impact last year at Kentucky.
Right.
It's like one of many things, Curtis. You say it's baffling. There's a lot of baffling things about this basketball team I've seen so far this year.
Man.
That doesn't make any sense. And speaking of baffling, I am going to do it. I'm sorry. But buy or sell that Nelly Davis will ends up averaging 12 points per game this SEC season. Because right now, overall, he's averaging 8.4. So I was trying to find a little sweet spot to where it could go, but 12 points per game this SEC season, buy or sell.
Selling it. I have no reason to buy it until he attempts to be the player that he's been his entire career, regardless of the reasoning. Injury, uncomfortable, the staff doesn't know how to use you, whatever. Until he starts being himself and quits trying to be Klay Thompson, as Andrew says, it's not going to happen. Like, he has to get back in attack mode. And that's the biggest thing for me. It'd be one thing if he was like still being aggressive and everything, that's the shots weren't falling and he just didn't look good. Or even if I would be okay if he looked like he was trying to force it and it was having a negative impact on the team. But it's just the amount to which he is being passive is what's really striking to me right now. Until he gets back in attack mode, there's no way I can buy that.
Would also just point out he's going to have to actually average 13 the rest of the way because he scored 0 in the first SEC game. So the math he's going to have to overperform. But I agree. Like, obviously, is he capable? 100%. But just based on where this team is trending, where he's trending, I have no doubt that he's going to play better at certain points.
Sure.
But I just don't think it's going to overcompensate to the point where he ends up being one of Arkansas's leading scorers in SEC play.
I'm almost to the point where I would accept him getting back to where he was right before he left for injury, and he was only shooting threes, but at least he was like hunting those shots and taking 6 or 7 of them a game. And he was engaged on defense and he was rebounding at his position. It's like, well, he's not what you expect him to be, but at least he's kind of being that floor spacer and impacting the game on both ends against Tennessee. And I get it, man. Like Chin Coleman talked about it. It's a tough game to come back in when you've been out for a while, but that ain't it. So it needs to be a lot better than that. It's and everybody knows I'm probably the biggest Nelly Davis fan out there from the time that he entered the portal to now. But man, the further along we get, the more and more I wonder if he's really gonna ever have the switch flip for him.
Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze.
I thought you were. That's why I kept talking.
I know. So I got this mute button. So if it happens, it happens. But I was like, there, I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I hate this congestion, man. But also, real quick about the Nelly Davis thing, it's just funny that he's at 8.4 points per game. It's 5th on the team. He's just below Big Z. Big Z averages 8.5. Wow. So yeah, that's not a great look. All right, I hate to do this, but I'm going to. I'm in a mood today. Buy or sell that the Ladybacks will win 2 SEC games or more this season.
I don't know enough about SEC women's basketball.
I don't either. That's why I thought it'd be a great question.
Do they
just throwing it out
now? Do they only play 16, or am I?
No, I think
they
play
play
18.
more than that. Do they play 18? Okay,
they play 18.
I'll buy that they win 2. I'll give them 2.
Does anybody happen to know, do they play Missouri twice?
I don't know.
I need to look up. I would look up their schedule, but my laptop decided to have AIDS right now. Let's see. They play. Looking at the rest of the schedule, because I'll give them credit. Like, hey, they played LSU and Texas to start the year, which are like 2 top 5 teams. So that sucks. But they have Auburn, Tennessee, Bama, at Vanderbilt, at Kentucky, A&M, Florida, Mississippi State, Georgia, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Missouri, A&M. So no, they don't play Missouri twice.
Okay, well, I remember at SEC Media Days talking to Ethan Westerman, who loves women's sports, and he was saying he picked Arkansas to finish second to last in the SEC, and I think Missouri was the team where he was like, I just can't pick Missouri over them because they beat them twice last year. So apparently they beat them twice last year, so maybe they can beat them once. So then maybe that's one, but outside of that, even if Ethan Westerman is even saying that there's not 2 teams worse than Arkansas, there must not be 2 teams worse than Arkansas.
Oh, just sad. It's just very sad, but I had to do it. I'm sorry. Forgive me. But I'd love to be proven wrong.
The Izzy girl could probably win them a game that they're not supposed to win.
That's what I'm banking on.
She's very good.
Yeah.
No, I could see that. All right. So now we can move on into, of course, your Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Razorback assistant coach Chin Coleman, the man, the guy that's going to give you all the information on all of the previews and games and whatnot. He had a few things to say, but we'll start with the mindset of the loss, or after the loss to Tennessee, where this team's at. Take a listen.
Absolutely not. We never want to let one game beat us twice. We've won 7 out of our last 8 games, so we're not gonna, just act like that stuff didn't happen and we aren't who we are. Right? We're a good basketball team. We had a bad night, bad day at the office, and so we want to take what we can from that so that doesn't happen again, so that we can be better the next time out. Again, it's about the response. Whether you win or lose, it's always about the response. And we have fighters in our locker room, and I'm excited again for practice today. We had a hell of a day of practice yesterday, and if yesterday is anything like today, then we'll be prepared to fight on Wednesday.
They're going to fight on Wednesday.
That's all coach speak. That's fine, but it's just reflective of the message that they're sending, which I think is the right one to send right now. Like, hey, we can get your ass kicked at Tennessee. That can't happen. So there's your wake up call, but don't get it twisted. Like, this is a good basketball team, and they had won several in a row, and that included some wins over some pretty good teams in there. So I like that they're not pushing the panic button or anything like that. Cal, I guess, had individual meetings with a bunch of the players. Who knows what was said in there, but I think it was a good opportunity for them to get a little bit of a wake-up call and then recalibrate. And we'll see if they do that. But, he was talking about the fighters in the locker room and everything like that. I want to see that on the court on Wednesday. I really do, because that was the one thing that struck me in this Tennessee game. And it might just be because Tennessee is the best team they played. But Arkansas has been in some situations like that throughout the course of this year. We saw it at Baylor. We saw it against Miami. We saw it against Michigan. We saw it with Illinois. And in all of those games, whether they won or not, the fight was still there. And they were still connected on the defensive end of the floor, and they would make a push even if they couldn't get back over the hump. But they never just fully kind of packed it in and accepted the beating like they did at Tennessee. So I hope that that was just, again, everything about that game. I hope that was a one-off and not a sign of things to come.
And I think if you're talking about a coach, what the messaging to the team should be, I think that's what you kind of have to convince your guys. This was a fluke. That was a one-off. We're giving you one. We're giving you one mulligan.
Yeah.
Let's get back to doing what we do. I love that he just with a straight face said, we won 7 of our last 8. that was pretty good. But also he did specify they hadn't practiced today yet. I guess they're doing it right now. He said, if today's practice is anything like yesterday, we're in a good position to fight. So if they don't fight on Wednesday, we know where to blame it. It was today's practice.
I have to ask him about that practice. Did you guys not practice? Did you?
Jen told you guys.
I was tossing and turning. We should have practiced.
Yeah, he's like, last minute decision. I canceled Tuesday's practice. Or he's like, hey, Chin tried to tell you guys we needed to have a good practice. We didn't have a good practice. Like, what do you want me to do?
No, he's got to pull the audience, guys. It's going to be like, and what did Chin say this week about practice? Anyone? Y'all remember? It was a great practice. Like, he's got to set it up that way.
You know who has no idea what Chin Coleman said at the press conference today? John Calipari.
Oh,
he has no idea what Chin Coleman said.
Yeah. In fact, I barely know what Chin Coleman said. I don't know. Chin Coleman knew what he said, but
he was getting philosophical, man.
Hey, I would too, man. I would do it. Which, by the way, I don't want to bring this up, guys. I'm not trying to hate on anybody, but is it just me or these like because it's on Zoom and everyone has their cameras turned on? Is it me that like these like press conferences have more people with their cameras on? I mean, I get it if you want to, you want to have the coach put a face to the voice and all that. But I was just like sitting there, I was like, man, I could put a gallery in here and I see everyone's face. Everyone's on camera.
Yeah, it was lively. This was by far the longest pregame of the year, which surprised me considering how it started. But it was like 20 some odd minutes. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but good on him.
Do that where like once the season ends, they really shift it. Like I remember Bob, for example, like I don't see Bob at baseball until April because like they have him very regimented of like, this is your season for football, this is your season for basketball, this is track, this is baseball. And so it's like maybe it's just now that football's officially over, you're seeing some of them switch over. Now basketball exists.
Well, he also talked. This was honestly the best question he got asked, the greatest question, the GOAT of questions that he got asked in this press conference. You don't believe me? Just ask him. Was about the atmosphere of Bud Walton Arena and the importance of getting that atmosphere rocking, not only for the Ole Miss game, but also for the Florida game.
That's a good question, a great question, probably one of the better questions. I was hoping to get that one because we need for that building to feel like it's felt the times that we've come in here now. We need the fans to support the Razorbacks the way that they've supported them, what we've seen when we were the opposing team, and now we're family and we're Razorbacks. And so we wanted to feel the way that it's felt when we've come in here as an opposer, as the enemy, that we need the building rocking. We need the building turned all the way up to help our men feed off of that energy. And so I've seen it before. I've witnessed it before when you can't even call out. And I'm normally one of the loudest persons in the building on the locker room, on the sideline. And our guys hear me. When I scream out different calls and I scream out different schematics, everybody hears me. And I've been in this building before where I have not been heard. And so that is what I need for that building, what we need for that building to feel like.
I don't want to try to get political, but my first thing before we get into it was just he almost reminded me of like a Donald Trump type of quote. He's just like, it was a great question, the best of questions. I have a lot of friends that ask a lot of great questions that way. That was the best question I've ever heard. But yeah, he's talking about the atmosphere, and we brought it up during the non-conference, and now there's no excuses. It's no more. Oh, well, the opponent. You're playing a top 25 team tomorrow. All right. It's Wednesday night. Don't care. It's been Wednesday nights since the beginning of time. Like, it's not like, they just decided to shift the games to Wednesday nights. There's been Wednesday night games all the time. No excuses. But it's just at the point where I'm really hopeful that the atmosphere is great. I think it'll be great. I can tell you this, guys. I've been playing Ticketmaster over here for some of these non-conference games. Nobody has hit me up being like, hey, I got these tickets I'm trying to get rid of. So I feel like that's a good sign. But yeah, I think that they understand the atmosphere and what it can be and what it needs to be. And hopefully it ends up being that tomorrow night. Yeah,
man. I mean, I hope so too. And I agree with everything he said about what that building can be, what it needs to be, what they hope that it will be. We talked about it quite a bit yesterday. I feel like they need Bud Walton Arena to push them over the top, maybe in a couple of these games here, that while they try to figure out who they are as a team. It goes back to me about just the way that they've approached this and marketed it. And like, you gotta do things to excite the fan base. And like, one of the things that we've heard so much was, well, who cares about who they're playing? I'm not coming for Pacific or Maryland Eastern Shore or whatever. Okay, well, now you got a top 25 team in here. And so hopefully that does the trick. But I would love to see them doing a little bit more in terms of connecting the team to the fan base, because I do feel like there's been a bit of a disconnect there, and that probably means getting the players more front and center. Whether that's pregame, whether it's, hey, they lost the other day. I don't even think they had did they even have a player at Tennessee, or was it just Cal?
It's just Cal.
Yeah, right. And then in some of these games that they've won, they've only had one, after the game. So I think there are some opportunities there for them to bridge that gap a little bit more, on top of just, hey, we're playing a really good team and we think we're a really good team, so come out and support.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to be too dramatic about this and make it seem like fans and their support can turn a bad team into a good team or anything, but there's definitely a value when it comes to Bud Walton Arena. Home court advantage is obviously a thing in all of sports, but like in college basketball in particular, home and away is like, in this sport more than just about any other, it's such a big deal. And I don't know if it's 3 points, I don't know if it's 4 points, 5 points, but it's like when you're a team kind of trying to find your way, trying to find your identity, find that source of like what you're playing for and like what really matters. That kind of stuff matters. Like whenever you have a big run against Ole Miss and you hear that crowd going crazy, I'm sure there's some of these players on the team right now who like understand the fan base is crazy. They've heard all the stories about Bud Walton Arena, but they haven't gotten to experience it firsthand, except for maybe that Kansas game, what the magic of that arena can be and what it can really feel like when you're in a tight game, second half, and you go on an 8-0 run and you hear that crowd going crazy. Like they haven't really gotten to experience that magic yet. And so I think, I'm not trying to be dramatic and say, hey, if the fans show up and show out, this team's going to win. And then they're going to find out they're good. And then they're going to go on a run. But I think when you look back at, like, we always do this where at the end of the year, we look back at moments and we're like, oh, that was when this team figured it out. Like, for instance, that Eric Musselman team, when they beat Missouri by 50 at home, we kind of point back and we're like, that was it. You never know when that's going to be for a team. Not saying it's going to be tomorrow, it could be Saturday, but I think the fans play a big role in this. And I agree with a lot of what you said, Curtis, where it's not like it's the fans' fault for not being connected to the team. No, I think there's definitely a lot that could be done to bridge that gap a little bit. And so I look forward to seeing this team, start to embrace that home crowd a little bit and see this home crowd start to embrace the team and really rally behind it.
Do we feel like, let me ask this question. Do we feel like the lack of player availability, do we think that's a Cal directive? I wonder, in terms of, because it was forced on them, I know, at Kentucky, and it was, it's like after every practice they've got dudes out there getting interviewed and everything. How much of it is that? How much of it is, and I like Hogs Plus, I think it's cool, I really do, but we see a lot of that type of stuff being pushed in that direction as opposed to making them available to the media and more widely spread. I feel like there's got to be maybe a little bit of a better balance there. They're just the access and the stories that they can tell are a little bit different, I think, than just having players open for interviews and talking to the media and those, types of stories being out statewide through different outlets and everything to connect.
No, honestly, it's a great question. The best of questions, Curtis. The best I've ever heard.
One of the best I've ever heard.
But to me, I honestly, this is again my reckless assumption. I could totally see it to where Cal, maybe in his recruiting of these guys, or maybe just when they got on campus or whatever, just maybe saying like, "Hey, you're not gonna have to talk to the media a lot, all right? Like, we'll do a few things here. You may do some stuff with Hogs Plus, but if you want to, that's great. But if not, I'm not going to force it on you. You don't have to." And I could totally see that. And again, it goes back to Cal. Like, Eric Musselman was great. Eric Musselman, I feel like the access was there and all that. But I don't think that Eric Musselman ever had that type of power to literally supersede anything that Hunter Yurchek had. Like, if Hunter Yurchek came to Muss, was like, "Hey, you need to start having players, available for media interviews and all that," I don't think Muss would have said no, and he'd been like, "Oh, okay." No, I think that's just Cal. He's like, no one says no to him. And so, and I get it. I wouldn't either. But I think that it was just more of Cal being like, it's up to them. If they want to, great. If not, no big deal. And they don't want to. And I don't blame them, because if I was a player, I wouldn't want to. So that's why.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that the team is like saying no. I don't think they're being asked. I don't think that the people who set these things up at the University of Arkansas are going to the team and saying, "Hey, we'd really like to have 2 or 3 players before this game. Can we get Boogie, whoever?" Like, because I know with Muss, like, they would go and ask, and there would be certain players that maybe couldn't. It would be a revolving door of players. Nobody loves doing it. I really don't think they're being asked. I don't think the U of A is going out of their way to try and give the student athletes a voice and make sure people hear from them. I mean, and let's just be for real here. We know some of the people who make these decisions wouldn't say they're setting the standard for work ethic in the industry of like making sure they do go above and beyond and make sure they do as much as they can. Like, I think they'll do as much as they have to do, which is pretty much what they do this year. Man, I like, don't you feel like, Andrew, I know you spent a lot of time talking to him at SEC Media Day. Adu Thero would be, I mean, he was and still is loved at Kentucky. I know fans really appreciate him and everything here, but like if he was front and center a lot more, like he would be one of the more popular guys Arkansas's had around the program in years. In fact, he said on Hogs Plus that he wants to be. So, I was just about to say, did you see that clip where he said he wants to be more popular than Ronnie? Which I love that clip, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. Like, Adu Thero should be a guy that unanimously this fan base is in love with, and I think they do love him for how good he is on the floor. But like, he should be one of those guys that we really remember fondly. But we don't have that many memories with Adu Thero, the person. We just see how awesome he is on the floor, and thank God he's really good at that because he's given us plenty in that regard. But I agree wholeheartedly. Like, it would be really nice to know the personality of some of these guys, but I don't think fans have any way of doing that.
Well, and going to your point about not being asked, I could also see that too, because again, I'm looking at it from my perspective. I ain't asking Calipari about something. It's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be hey, coach. Something I was thinking. You really need to give some more access to the fans. Like, you're going to tell Cal how to run a program. You're going to tell Cal what he needs to do. Like, again, if that ends up happening, like if you end up questioning Calipari, I could see like, you go home and your family is on like a fish hook, and they're just dead, or, suddenly there's a horse head. Yeah. Like I could see that happening. So yeah, I could see that too, where they're just not even being asked. And, it's easier to not ask, because then if you ask, you don't have to worry about your family, where, you turn your car on to the Frank Sinatra album and they end up becoming a highway because it blows up in the air. Like, you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Well, and that's the other part about this, like, all jokes aside, obviously, but one of the things I've been most impressed about with Cal is like the way he has tried to be out, in the community and doing these different things, and the way he handled the situation with Bob. And like, he's a really genuine dude. He's a good man. He really is. And I think just because of where he came from and his entire career, there's like this mystique about him that like he's just kind of larger than life, and he's not worried about what anybody else has going on. It's about himself, but he's really not that kind of guy. And so I don't know, man. It's been an interesting dynamic and a change. And like, for me, in terms of actually covering it as a media member, Muss and Sam Pittman have been my exposure. Like, I don't know what it was like with Chad Morris. I'm glad I don't know what it was like with Mike Anderson, dealing with it as a media member, just watching from afar, maybe. So maybe this is just the way it is in other places too. I really don't know.
Well, I can tell you this just from my perspective. And as much as I don't like the guy, the greatest and most accessible coach ever that I ever covered was Brett Bielema. Because Brett Bielema, like, not only would but he would have, I'll never forget, during the season, during fall camp, he had his Monday press conference with Brett. Tuesday was offensive coaches and defensive coaches, like all of them. They'd go in there and you have a scrum. And then on Wednesdays, it was offensive players and defensive players. And there would be 6 players from each unit. So it's like, that was my first real exposure. I was like, man, this is great. And then I heard like Jason Kersey used to cover Oklahoma back in the day. He's like, dude, yeah, with Bob Stoops, we got one press conference with him and that was it. I was like, I'm not here at Arkansas. We do things the right way. And then it ended up changing pretty quickly. But yeah, I think that, it's a matter of, what you want to do and how you want to approach it. But I'll bring it up. I'm not trying to hate on, because there's some really fine people over there. God, I feel like I'm doing a lot of Trumps. There's a lot of fine people over there. But the Hogs Plus thing, I think, has also been a cop-out, outing for them. Where it's like, well, if you want to see access, you just subscribe to Hogs Plus. Pay your $5.99, eat your bowl of popcorn, and shut up. So I think that's also been a little bit of a thing, like a cop out for them. It's like, we don't have to do that. We're Hogs Plus. Just watch the interview. You'll get to know them that way.
And that's where I'm not blaming the university, but I would say, like, you mentioned him at Kentucky, Curtis, how like he got, there was a bunch of players available. I don't think Cal changed his stance from Kentucky to Arkansas. I think what Cal is asked to do and what he's being approached about has changed drastically. And I think the university's kind of made it clear, like, they don't really care if you have an emotional connection to the team. They don't care if the fans come see the team. They don't care if the media covers the team. Like, they've kind of shut out a lot of different people.
And I hope that it's a learning process for everybody involved, and that it's something that can evolve here. And I think what could do that is like, if, like, who knows what it's going to look like Wednesday and Saturday and everything. But like, if you get to the end of the year and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, our attendance really wasn't what we thought it would be. And, oh yeah, the engagement and the interest, going into next season with our ticket sales and just, overall, just how people are feeling and the vibe around it. If that's not where they want it to be, I'm sure they're going to make some tweaks to rectify that. Anytime you're doing something new, it's, you're going to find out some things you like and some things that you dislike, and you're going to make some changes, and things that you were doing, you're not going to do, and things that you weren't, you are. Like, we're going through that as a new business. So hopefully it evolves and gets a little bit better, but yeah, it's just, there's something's not quite clicking right there between the fan base and the team thing. And it's weird to me because I think this is a fun team and a really likable one.
Yeah. And to that point though, Curtis, football attendance was so high. It was such a success during football season. And then with Cal, we all assumed preseason that the attendance for basketball would be through the roof. I wonder if the university probably thought the same thing, where they were like, we don't have to do anything crazy. We don't have to go above and beyond. Like, people will show up. And hey, they might tomorrow. I mean, who knows? I'm sure the attendance will see a little bit of an uptick here during conference play. So we'll see how it plays out. But I agree, there's a disconnect.
I think it's so funny that Eric Musselman could be mean publicly, but yet I would get like less intimidated approaching him, even when I didn't know him, than I am John Calipari, who's the nicest, like, approachable guy. It's like, I could go out and just catch him on the wrong day, and he'll tell me to go F myself. But it's like going up to Cal. I know no matter what, if like when I saw him at Bob's funeral, I said, "Hey, coach," and he goes, "Hey, how are you?" I was scared out of my mind, and I don't know why, but I think it's just because he's got the presence and it's got this aura, or whatever it is. But yeah, I've never seen him be mean. That's what's weird. I've never seen John Calipari, like, maybe he lashes out at the media in his own way, but I've never seen him just, undress somebody or, go off on them or anything like that, except for officials. So, yeah. Tell you what, we have another segment here with Bryant Technologies that we're really excited about. A little what to watch for. We'll get to that here in just a second. A few of your chats, though. Of course, thanks, Michelle. Says, happy Tuesday. Help the boys out and give the stream a like by pressing the thumbs up button. That's what you do. Thank you, Michelle. I don't know, Curtis. We may need to give her the logins to the StreamYards over here, and just really get her going and have some power.
She's the most amazing woman I've ever met, but I wouldn't trust her with those.
Fair enough.
Can't put that kind of power in her hands.
Yeah. We're about taking power away, not by giving it. Also. A few interesting questions here. Like Ryan says, what is the difference in the atmosphere? What is the difference in the atmosphere compared to the Muss era teams? I mean, it's freaking Cal. I thought that they would be enough to get people in there. We got
that too.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've talked about this a lot, but yeah, I think it's just the U of A and the changing of the guard and everything. They're just like, Cal's here, therefore people will show up, which I don't think is an unfair assumption before the season started, because I felt the same way. But I also believe that if you have people who are in charge of marketing and promotion, they still have a job to do. So you still got to do something. But I will appreciate their zestiness and sassiness on social media recently about, like, with the stripe out, be like, here you are. Here's the date. It's far away. So get ready for it. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that.
They can be pissed at all they want. Just do your job. Like,
yeah.
sorry. That was such a tough ask you to promote the freaking team.
Yeah, I know. It's a tall order to fill. Ryan also says, do we need more Cal TikToks and videos for the students? More? Has there been any Cal TikToks?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not from Cal, but it's, again, like, it's not that hard to get. If you don't want to put the players up there on a Zoom or whatever, have them do some of that stuff. I mean, hell, they got the football guys doing those voiceovers for the game previews, the hype videos. I'm not saying do that, but you see it all over the country. How about have a Dude Thero do a windmill and then land on the court and say, you want to see more of this? Come to Bud Walton tomorrow. Yeah. It'll get people going, man.
Yeah.
And
honestly,
we don't really see that much of that.
Honestly, if I was in charge of marketing, he wouldn't do it, but I think it'd be so funny if, like, Cal did, like, a Muss impersonation of these, like, promotion videos, just but, like, doing it in the Cal way. Like him, like coming out with like a Lippmann Mops shirt and just, yell like, but being very cool about it. Cal's cool, but I was like, I would retweet that. I would enjoy that if that's something like that happened.
That would definitely be something.
If I was John Calipari, the first time tomorrow that there's a situation where there's a bad call or a non-call or whatever, and the fans are booing, getting into it, I'm getting teed up. Oh yeah, I'm getting teed up for sure. That's how you win them over. You show that you're pissed off when they're pissed off. That's how you get them.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. You know what they also need at the game? You need the video of the player who's like, Razorback fans, get up and make some noise.
It needs to be Lawson Blake.
That's okay.
Welcome to the SEC.
I was a teacher today. Told them boys, like, yeah, it was. They need something fun and unique and original and funny. Because Cal can do it. What was it at Big Blue Madness or whatever? Didn't he dress up as Elvis that time or something? And like had his microphone and was doing this. And it's like, so I know he's capable of having some fun. But yeah, they need to get him. Hit me up, Cal. I got some ideas. For
we need to brainstorm for sure.
Yeah, I can really help you out. Let's see. Also, Blake just said, and I retweeted this. Apparently, first 1.5 fans get the jerseys tomorrow. Yeah, those jerseys.
Nice.
Which, God, I'm such a jerk. I hate those jerseys. I'm sorry.
Wait, which jersey is it?
It's those ones they gave the students, those red ones, and I'm like, no one's ever worn ever. Like
are they like the number 10 jerseys?
Yeah, like the big red ones. Like, okay, I'm fine.
I didn't dislike them.
No, it's not that I don't dislike them. It's just like, why don't you do jerseys that the team actually wears? Like do the 94 throwbacks. How many people would love those? I don't know. Again, I'm being petty.
John screams at the university to do something to drum up excitement. University does something to drum up excitement. John, not happy, not good enough.
I get the point of like it being a jersey that they don't wear, but I also think like it's okay. It's a separate jersey.
I'm not trying to be, Johnny Raincloud. I'm just saying that I just didn't understand why. It's like that jersey's never been worn in the history of it. And also they wear white at home. I don't know. I was just like, why didn't you just, because maybe it's because I'm selfish where I'm like, I kind of would like to have a 94 throwback jersey. Like that'd be kind of cool actually. Yeah. It's a selfish thing. I'm just a selfish jerk. It's okay. Kingsley says, Hogs Plus sucks as an idea in the state, to be honest. We're not that kind of school in state, sacrificing fan base to make a few random bucks. And I'll say about Hogs Plus again, there's a lot of good people that work over there I'm friends with and everything. I get they just got a job to do, and I get why the U of A did it. It's just, in this state when it's the only game in town and you can control the narratives and all of that and then have people, pay for it and whatnot. It's just one of those things that, when you're good, maybe it's a little interesting, but man, when you're bad, nobody wants to watch it. Nobody wants to see it. And you're just not going to get that type of access in it too. So I don't know.
I really do think that there's a niche like corner of the market for something like that. But you know how it is, man. Like if something in any industry, like if something kind of blows up or it's taken off or whatever, or you get a taste and you want like a bigger and bigger and bigger piece of the pie, then maybe you kind of get out of your wheelhouse. But I think like the concept, the idea, I actually think it's a really good one personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's a good concept too. And I think like like you said, there's a market for it and like it can be good. My only pushback with it is the fact that they're trying to box out other forms. They're not allowing any other types of media basically. And so it's like, if you're going to try and be the only, like it's good. It's good if it exists in the context of everything else where you can get, the actual story of the team somewhere. You actually kind of get a real reaction and real thoughts on what's actually happening. And then maybe if you get the fluff stuff on the side, cool. But it's like they're having the fluff stuff and then trying to shut out literally everything else into the fact where they're like trying to take power away from other outlets in the state, which is where that's really where the issue is.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, like you talk about players like a Duthiero or anybody out there. It's like, man, I have so many. I don't ask questions in press conferences. I never have, but I do have. If I ever got an interview with him, of course, I have a lot of things I want to talk to him about. But it's just where the only time you can ever hear a little bit about him is it's like you have a sit down, overproduced deal where someone's trying to do their best Tom Rinaldi impersonation of just like, what is it that makes you you? It's like, no, I want to know exactly. I want to know why this guy loves cars so much. I want to know a little bit about the fun side of stuff? Does he play video games? Is he good at Fortnite? You know, what's his weapon of choice? You know, things like that. That really is the hard hitting Big J journalism that people need to know about. Also, Ryan says, does it have much to do with the cameras following the team around, since it'll be on Netflix or whatever it is, maybe cutting media time? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just in charge of the U of A, and they do it. And you know, we just when we get what we got, that's all we get is what we got, and that's guys like Chin Coleman doing previews. Maybe that Netflix show is going to be the most detailed behind the scenes. Like, it's going to have everything. So we'll find out, I guess. Mm-hmm. Maybe some drama. Maybe it'll be like because you guys watch that Johnny Manziel documentary, right, on Netflix. You know, always think in my mind, like, maybe it'll be like that. Then I realized, no, it won't. It won't have any type of drama like that. It won't be anything cool like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into a new segment here on Inside Arkansas Live, and we're very appreciative of our new sponsor here in 2025. It is Bryant Technologies, folks. Bryant Technologies is dedicated to delivering high-quality network infrastructure and security camera solutions. They take pride in their exceptional workmanship and commitment to keeping your business operations seamlessly connected and secure, whether it's structured cabling, security camera installations, digital signage, TV mounting even, which I try that myself and it sucks. I hate doing it. So have Bryant Technologies do it, because they're going to have you covered. They service the entire state of Arkansas as well as the bordering states. So it's not just here in Arkansas, but everywhere across the way. So have them to help you with all your network and security needs. You can call them at 870-883-0330, or you can check out their website at Bryant's Technology. I got to make sure I say that right. Bryant, there's an S in afterwards, so we'll just make it possessive. Bryant'sTechnology.com. It is Bryant Technologies, quality work guaranteed. All right, what to watch for, fellas? You know, there's always things we got going on in our lives, but what to watch for? What are you guys going to be watching tonight? You know, shows, or, you know, watching your wife do something. I don't know, whatever it is. But what are you doing tonight? What are you watching for?
Michelle, what are you doing tonight? She's not listening to me. She's got her headphones in. She's trying to multitask. She's doing actual work stuff. That's crazy.
I assumed she was doing. I assumed she was doing some training thing, or like telling me about how my protein intake sucks and I need more. That's what I was assuming. Yeah,
check those Instagram stories later. She'll let you know for sure. Yes, I don't know what she's doing tonight, but I'm going to be watching some SEC basketball. I know it's like, oh, of course, the basketball guys are going to be watching basketball. But I am, though. We talked earlier about the Tennessee-Florida game. It's at Florida. That's just I love matchups like that, because it's the team Arkansas just played versus the team that they're getting ready to play coming up. So I'm not big on the transitive property thing, but it can give you a decent barometer of kind of how you stack up. I'm really interested to see after Kentucky got that win at Rupp, how it travels and goes to a Georgia team that's, you know, maybe a step down, but it's on the road. They've been overachieving. I think it's a good game. And then check this out. Auburn goes on the road and plays at Texas. Texas has been underwhelming so far this year. They got the crap kicked out of them the other day by A&M. But we talk about Arkansas's 2-game home stretch here. It's like, man, you get Ole Miss and Florida in here. That's really tough. Texas, they get Auburn tonight, and then Saturday they get Tennessee. You get 1 and 2 back to back. Oh, buddy, that's tough. Couldn't happen to a better team, though.
Let's say I have zero sympathy for them.
Well, tonight at 8 p.m., I will be watching episode, I believe it's 7 now. I think it's episode 7 of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I've referenced it on the show, I think maybe once. But I'm it's at the point now. We'll see. Maybe tonight's episode will suck. I guess the penultimate, which is usually like kind of the cool part of the season. So I'm excited to see if they can stick the landing, but it's becoming a very respectable Star Wars show. I was a little bit like, I wasn't super excited for it when it came, because Star Wars shows have been a little bit hit or miss since like Mandalorian first started popping off. Like, they get a little weird here and there. And I know some people have their, you know, takes on how much they hate Disney Star Wars and all that. And Acolyte, which came out last year, they've already canceled that. Like, that's already done. And that was a little bit of a flop. This is not that. It's not going to like blow anyone's mind, but here's what I like about it. Star Wars has done this stupid thing where they get too self-referential. Everything has to be tied together. It's like, we can't just have something happen without it being like, oh, is that Darth Vader? You know, it's like, okay, there's other things happening in the galaxy. Let's just see what they're doing. It's just, you know, it's good stuff. It's got kids in it. It's not a kids show, but it has kids in it. It's got Jude Law in it. He's cool. Bryce Dallas Howard directed episode 6. It's got good stuff.
So that he got Jude Law. He's cool. He's a cool guy. Jude Law.
Jude Law's cool. I didn't know Jude Law was like still doing stuff. Honestly,
It seems
I
like he's
watched
always
him over the Christmas break when I was watching the holiday, but I didn't know he was still cooking. But apparently he's in Star Wars now.
Curtis, I will buy you a beverage of your choice at our next outing if I can just hear you give me a Star Wars quote verbatim, word for word, just like one that you know.
Oh yeah, he's got some Star Wars quotes in his arsenal.
Just give me one, and I'll buy you a beverage of your choice.
I can't. Can I just say, "May the Force be with you"? Does that count?
Yeah, give me one more than that. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't specify.
I know that's my bad. That's my bad. I'm changing the rules. Give me one.
Luke, I am your father.
All right, I'll take it.
There you go.
Okay,
you go.
all right. Yeah,
that's all I wanted to hear. That's all I wanted to hear.
I've dropped a couple in on Andrew randomly that
he hit I feel like one time he hit me with the like, do or do not, there is no try. I think he's mixed that in once. There's maybe something else. I don't know.
Well, I watched a documentary on James Earl Jones, and it just made me happy because I love that guy.
R.I.P.
Yeah, but just as a kid, because he was Darth Vader, obviously. But then thinking about him in Sandlot, because that was one of my favorite movies growing up, and how scared I was of him because of how scary he was in the show or in the movie. And when he's getting the baseball or whatever, it's like that's Babe Ruth's baseball. George signed this. You're dead where you stand. And I was like, man, that was so scary to me. But anyways, that's not what I'm watching tonight is the documentary. But I'm also going to probably check out Tennessee and Florida casually, maybe have it on the other TV over there. Check that out. But I will say, guys, I have gotten down a rabbit hole sometimes where late at night when I'm winding down a little bit, I go on YouTube and I watch, because I'm just sad as a Razorback fan, I watch War Machine highlights. And I like to relive some of those fun moments. And since we're transitioning to full-fledged basketball SEC season, I think I'm going to also kind of go through some of those and relive some of those moments and some of those games I remember being at and how much fun they were. And also ones that are obscure that maybe nobody else remembers, or maybe because I was a kid. Like, because we talked about it yesterday, I think, about that Florida game in 2006 with Ronnie Brewer and all that, with the snow game. Like, I think I'm going to watch the highlights of that. So and also shout out to War Machine 2013. The dude does the Lord's work. Like, imagine if he did not exist. Like, how would we be able to watch highlights on YouTube of games? I don't know.
It's it's like an encyclopedia a little bit too, because it's just like everything's documented. And so it's pretty cool. I don't know how he gets access to some of the crap he gets, because like some of these games like aired on like random weird channels and he'll like have it. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Where did you even get that?
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this, because I know you guys watch. What War Machine game highlight have you think you watched the most in your life? And it could be like twice, but just like, do you think of one? Because I know mine.
I think 2010 LSU is really high up there for me. And he went through a phase a couple years ago where he started remastering. He would like get better quality videos of some of those. And so he got like an updated version of that. And so I've probably watched that one a good bit. I was at that game. It's one of my favorite. It's just one of my favorite games ever.
Yeah, just anything from the John Pelfrey era. Just watch it over and over and over.
Nothing.
Probably the Blake Griffin win over Oklahoma.
Dude, well, I did laugh about the stats the other day because, like, speaking of that, I forgot about a game that I was in attendance. It was Arkansas and Vanderbilt. I believe it was either the late Pelfrey era or early Mike Anderson era. The halftime score was 25-15, and I'm like, my God, like I could not imagine. Just that was the SEC basketball right there. I mean, that was the heyday of it. But no, I will say that the one I've probably watched is I did watch the Arkansas-Texas football game of 2021 a ton, because Arkansas went so long without any like fun games, and that was a really fun game to go to. Also, shout out to Joe Tessitore for that game, because the dude nailed the call at the end. I remember when I would do radio shows, I do highlights like in the beginning of the game, at the beginning of the show, and I remember, and Chuck always did fine, but Chuck's call didn't do justice. So I had to have Joe Tessitore's call of, you want to know why? Because rivalries matter in college football, over the top stuff. So I'd probably do that one, or the Auburn game when Arkansas beat them and they were number one. That was a lot of fun to be at. That was intense. I was trying to think. Wasn't that a Tuesday night game? Midweek game? When Arkansas beat Auburn number one?
I think we were talking about Wednesday night games and 6 p.m. I think it was one of those like midweek at 6 p.m. games.
It was.
I think so too. Yeah. It's a shame. I mean, it was still
People
great.
showed up for that one though.
Yeah.
Somehow. I don't know how that worked out.
Church was called off that day apparently. Yeah. So, but yeah, I've watched that one a lot. And then, as random and as weird as it is, the 1999 Arkansas Auburn basketball game, folks. If you've never had a chance to watch that game, I've been to Bud Walton Arena almost every single game for every single big game for sure. There are 3 moments in 3 games that will always stick out to me as being one of the greatest, loudest instances and atmospheres. When Cal got ejected is still the loudest moment I've ever heard. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah,
that moment was the loudest I've ever heard when Cal got ejected in 2020. The other one was front row of Qualls putback dunk, loudest moment. But the loudest game from beginning to end is that Auburn game of 99. So if you ever watched that, go check it out. So yeah, that's how cool of a guy I am. I'm going to watch highlights of Razorback games tonight on a Tuesday.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of watching old highlights, and you mentioned Testor and how good he was on the call. So last night, I kind of forgot about this. I watched a 31-minute mini movie on YouTube of the 2016 NBA Finals, just reliving all 7 games of that and just the ups and downs. And why am I blanking on the guy's name? The NBA guy, Mike Breen.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely dominated that series. There's so many like great calls in that series that are just like in my head. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Blocked by James, obviously being the one, but it'll be like Clay Thompson, bang. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
And like, you can like, and there's just all these good, it's shot like a documentary, like a movie. It's very good.
I'll also say, just for future reference and for helping out people, I love the Mike Breen calls, and the double bang calls are always great. But just when you go on YouTube or when you go search, just don't search for bang compilation.
Bang compilation,
because some things showed up and it was not Mike Breen. At least I hope it wasn't. But yeah, just be on the lookout for that.
Y'all remember the NBA Finals the next year, whenever Mark Jackson said he would quote hit her out of the park, no question, referring to Savannah James.
Yes,
LeBron's wife.
Yes, I do.
And LeBron was like pulling up for 3 as he was saying it. He's like, "I'd hit her out the park, no question." James for 3, good.
And I don't know why that just brought it up to me, but do you remember when? This is so random and out of pocket, but do you remember when Eli Drinkwitz talked about how he wanted his quarterback to marry his daughter?
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah,
I remember that.
Was it Connor? No one, Connor Schrader. It was
Brady Cook. It was Brady Cook when he was younger.
Yeah, and I was like, and your daughter like in junior high? Like, this is a little weird, but I mean, come on, who are we talking about here? Let's be honest. All right, JT says, "Wish me happy birthday." I don't know, I'm subscribing. Happy birthday, JT. We don't want that.
Birthday, buddy.
We do. Happy birthday, Hazelwood. You're the man, and haven't seen him in a minute.
I was gonna say, I hope I'm seeing him. Is it next weekend?
Next weekend's UFC 311. I'm looking. That's sneaking up on us. It's gonna be good. Do you want to get together for Dern Rebos?
Sure.
John, you need to watch the UFC this weekend. We're talking about what to watch for. Watch the UFC. You're gonna like the main event this weekend.
So wait, I thought you were saying it was next weekend, or is it
next
this weekend?
Weekend is a pay-per-view, but this weekend they're doing just a fight night for free on ESPN Plus. Well, free on ESPN Plus. But the two women, it's Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas.
Is any of them attractive?
It's for you to decide, man.
I mean,
I don't like that. I don't like that response, because that's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna have to set you up with this girl. Is she hot? Well, she's got a great personality.
I'll say this. There was a video one time, the UFC will post all the weigh-ins when the fighters go, and they pretty much take off their clothes and weigh in. And all the videos from the last time Mackenzie Dern fought, it was 300,000, 100,000, and hers 6.8 million. And then it went back down. Everybody was sharing and reposting her weigh-in.
Man, just thirsty out there for sure. All right, a few chats, folks, before we roll out of here. Appreciate everybody hopping in with us. Let's see. Finch says, legit question for Inside Arkansas. Will we ever get to see y'all back in pressers or no? Time will tell. Time will tell. Never say never.
In there now.
Yeah, we get in the pressers.
I mean, I can ask a question at basketball whenever I want, but it's 2 things. One, we start our post-game show right after the game. It's I'm never down there in the post-games. I was on the one today. The main thing is we don't write anymore. And that's a lot of those questions. It's geared towards the writers. I used to get really irritated when talking heads would get on there and ask a bunch of questions.
Like these radio guys.
They don't
over
help
here.
transcribe the quotes, and that's a tall order. And then they're not writing the stories, and it's taking up time where journalists who are getting paid to write have to. So I usually choose not to, but no, in there. And if there's ever a need, don't worry, it'll happen.
I want to tell a quick story about that. The time when I was young in my media days and I was going to press conferences, the time I knew that those press conferences were not for me as a radio guy was when Nate Allen gave me quite the reaction when I asked a question, because it wasn't a bad question. At least I don't think it was, but it was more of just, why are you asking a question? You have no business asking a question, so shut up. And I'm like, you know what? You're right, Nate. I have no business asking a question, so I'm just going to shut up. So after that, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore.
That's funny. I miss it. I mean, I really do, but like it used to bug me because people don't understand like what goes on behind the scenes. Like when you're finished with that, before you type it, like you got to write out every single quote. That stuff takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will get left out who would have a story idea. They couldn't get a question in or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to take up that time because I don't feel like that's really my role anymore. But I miss it. And it's been hard to not jump back in there on occasion. I'm sure I'll bite the bullet again here at some point and hop in.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I get it. Like we are there. Like, and for all the reasons you guys said, that's kind of why we don't ask questions. I know people view it like the press conferences are times for like us to really like stick our finger at the coach and ask him questions. Like people kind of view it through that lens. It's not really what it's designed for. Like you said, it's designed for writers. It's designed to get quotes for stuff, and like it's not really just a Q&A for the hell of a Q&A. And so sometimes. Like I'm sure I won't ask questions during baseball post games for sure because I just am not going to be doing that. Maybe those pre-series ones might ask a question here or there. If DVH points out my hair, then I definitely got to ask a question.
You don't have a choice then,
right?
Yeah,
at that point, I gotta pull something. But yeah, like a lot of times we would just be asking a question just to ask a question, and that's not really what it's for.
Also, a few other things. This one comes from Double H. He says, "Can we get an early show Friday? I need something to listen to while shoveling the driveway." Yeah, sure. Around your time, for sure. Yeah, because it is supposed to hit pretty hot and heavy. Apparently, Dallas is going to get wrecked. With snow.
Seeing some of that, and we'll see, man. What winds up happening? It drives me nuts that like it just varies from hour to hour. I mean, like at one point yesterday, it was like. Fayetteville is going to get like 8 to 10 inches or whatever. And then I woke up this morning, it was like, maybe 1 to 3. And then I'm sure it's changed again. It's like Andrew was talking about from his meteorology class yesterday. It's like, I mean, trying to forecast this stuff too far in advance is crazy. We'll see what actually happens. I'm to the point now where it's been hyped up so much and I'm going to be a little irritated if we don't get something somewhat substantial.
I want my life to be in danger Friday. That's where I'm at.
Snow me in.
Yeah. As the great poet of our generation, Andre 3000 once said, "You can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather."
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
Gosh, man.
Well, I hope nobody has planned any picnics for Friday.
No, let's hope not. Also, let's see. Kingsley says, "Side quest: have y'all seen the sport mashup jerseys? Which crossover combos would hit the hardest? Imagine a pinstripe basketball jersey or yellow and red football uniforms."
I've not seen these, but I like whenever the Magic used to have pinstripe basketball jerseys. Maybe the Hornets also, the Charlotte Hornets did that. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't hate seeing a little like 94 throwback with some pinstripes
for basketball jersey. You saying right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not football.
Cool.
Not football.
Yeah. I was like, I think it'd be kind of cool if you did you did baseball jerseys, but it was a 94 throwback like baseball jersey. I think that'd be kind of cool, but
I'm gonna have to think about this.
Yeah,
is this an Arkansas thing? Or are they just doing this elsewhere, or do we actually have Arkansas examples? I wonder. From Kingsley, you have to tell me here.
We can talk about it tomorrow. It's fun.
Hit my line, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen this, but no, I'm like always. I'm always in on these things. Y'all remember when baseball unveiled those pins, and we were all very excited until we realized that it had the Jeff Long font.
Yep.
Yep. That was a tough one.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm not the only one that's petty. It's the little things, like it's the little things that get you.
I mean, it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, last one before we get out of here, folks. As just want to give a shout out because, we talked a little bit about our guy, Bob Holt, rest in peace. But he was the winner of the NSMA Sports Media Writer of the Year. So that was really awesome to see. David Basil's the Sportscaster of the Year because he is every year. But yeah, Sports Writer of the Year, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. So shout out to him.
Shout out to Bob.
Well deserving for that.
Who also is going to have the award named after him. Not that one, a different award. Is that with the Gazette though?
I think it is. So. But
Yeah.
I also want to say, and I don't want to put something out there, it's not true, but I also wanted to say that there was some sort of award that was given out like at the SEC Media Days or some sort of thing that they're doing for SEC Media Days for him, which is awesome.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
And shout out to University of Tennessee for what they did for him too.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Reserved the spot. They had his media credential there on press row,
awesome.
And some decoration. It was really nice.
Yeah,
that is cool.
You cannot do enough honoring of Bob Holt.
That's right.
Say that. You can never do enough. So, all right. Final thoughts, guys, before we roll out of here for today.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to talking about tomorrow. I'm excited for this basketball game. It's bounce back time. It was hard today. I felt like based on just some of the topics we were talking about to not feel a little gloomy or feel, like come across kind of negative just with some of this. I mean, it's the nature of the beast with some of these things, man, but I truly am still optimistic about this basketball team and what it can do. And I'm getting ready to record the Ole Miss preview for tomorrow morning. I'm really looking forward to this game and hopefully a rocking Bud Walton Arena because it's been a minute.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I got to change the music up again, I guess, in the intro. I didn't do enough to get the doom and gloom out. I got to have some good music to change it up a little bit.
When you follow the music up with let's talk about Arkansas's portal haul, it's gonna be tough. Like it doesn't matter what song you play. If we're going to talk about the transfer portal, it's going to stink. But to Curtis's point, I also don't like being negative. I don't like having to talk about bad things, which is why I talk baseball every day when I get a chance. So everybody that's watching this show right now, go watch yesterday's Bombastic podcast. If you want to know who your next favorite player will be, I talked a lot about who's going to be the new fan favorites. And also to anyone watching, I obviously will, be cranking out videos all week, cranking them out leading up to the season, but I'm always looking for topics. The first person that is watching right now that either tweets at me, DMs me, or messages me anyway, or comments it on the podcast yesterday and gives me a topic, I will do whatever topic that person asks. No questions asked, unless it sucks.
You have just screwed yourself over because now you're going to have to go through all those platforms you just said and find out who the first one that actually messaged you was. You're going to have to go on comments and everything.
Well, John, worst case scenario, there's 7 or 8 different options, and then I'm booked for the next week or so, which is hopefully what we're going to do.
Yeah. Or you can just make it up. Be like, nah, this person was first. Sorry. And it's the first one to go.
Definitely thought about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't have any final thoughts other than just we appreciate you and appreciate everybody watching in, listening in, and checking out all of our great content here at Inside Arkansas. Be sure to subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel. Be sure to also subscribe and follow our podcast in audio form on Spotify and Apple, wherever podcasts are found. Find all of our great content there. You can find our great content on InsideArkansas.com, and also check us out on social media and Inside Arkansas. So we're everywhere. And if you can't find us, that's a you problem. But appreciate each and every one of you listening and watching in. For Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbor. Same sports show, same sports channel. Tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. And we'll see you then.